Hi, this is Michael Hatch, username MeHatch for the Change My View podcast. This is episode 16, recorded January 23rd, 2018. It's now February 21st, where I'm re-recording this. Ran into an issue during the episode. While recording, I noticed there was some issue with Cal's audio, but I thought it might be okay to just roll with it. And on re-listening and trying some fixes in post, Cal and I decided it just wasn't of a quality. Cal's incoming audio, that we should keep it, and so what I've done is gone through and essentially just removed all but just a little bit of his audio in the beginning, so you can get a taste of sort of the why that was pulled out. So apologies for that snafu. There might be some awkward continuity at some parts, but we appreciate you tuning in and your patience on this episode coming out, and hopefully the next one will come sooner. But yeah, this is going to be episode 16 on heavy metal, and our guest Dominic discusses his post. So for music lovers out there, hopefully there was something of use to you, or just anyone, everyone on Change My View. Always glad to have you. So thank you for tuning in. Apologies again for the technical difficulties, and we'll just keep chugging forward and trying to get each episode a little better and keep them coming live and more often, so we can stay out of post. So thanks for your patience, and on with the show.
This is the Change My View podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We are going to go right into our OP of the week, username Roachbrain, and talk about his post. And then a little later on, we'll go into some other Change My View news and other things of the week. Many of you may know some big stuff's gone on, but we'll get into that a little later. So for now, welcome to the podcast, user Roachbrain, but we're going to refer to you as Dominic, right?
Yeah. Hello.
Cool. Right on. So, Dominic, we've got your post here this week, and it's got, let's see, we're looking at 297 comments and 555 upvotes. So, well discussed post. Lots going on there. And so, just before we dive into the post itself, can you tell us a little bit about what? Actually, let's read the title first, and then we'll go into a little bit of context of why you posted it. So, if you want to go,
Sure.
just because it's your name, your voice, could you read the title for us, please?
Sure. Okay. So I wrote, sorry, it's still okay. Change My View. It is okay for a person with non-mainstream taste in music to impose their music on people who like mainstream music, since the world imposes mainstream music on everybody, regardless of their taste.
Great. Okay, and so what we always usually like to ask our OPs is sort of what was going on with you that day, that week, that might have inspired you to, or pissed you off, or just made you want to get to that threshold that you had to post something. You had to get it was on your mind.
Well, I've posted to Change My View before, and in the past I felt like maybe my posts have been a little bit too heavy. And this is something that just sort of popped in my head, and I thought, oh, you know what? I've thought about this before. This is something that has bothered me in the past, although not recently. And so I thought, oh, maybe this is a good, more lighthearted topic to post.
Oh, we do like it.
Yeah.
And my apologies in my desire to get right into OP because of the time there. I completely forgot to introduce you, Cal. So we're here with me, Cal,
okay.
with you, and yeah. So
I'm the silent assistant.
So with that said, Dominic, would you mind maybe just going into the paragraph part of your the text of your post? And if you see a moment there where you want to freewheel it or see something you want to add to, or that's fine too, but just to give people listening a context.
Sure. So yeah, let's see. I guess I'll just read through it.
Yeah.
So I gave the example of when I have house guests, or maybe when you're in the car with somebody else. If you are not a person that necessarily likes pop music, then you might feel inclined to play music that you like. And I feel in the past, in my experience, I felt this kind of like social pressure to, well, don't play the music that I like because not everyone else is going to like it. And I think that the idea behind the post was that maybe I shouldn't feel guilty about wanting to play music that I like and that everyone else maybe isn't as familiar with or is not super a big fan of. So I'm a fan of heavy metal. And so if I'm having a party, my friends probably want to play like whatever is top 40 on the top 40 charts. It's like Despacito, stuff like that. But if it's my party and I'm tired of listening to Despacito and I'm tired of listening to top 40, I would rather play something like the example I gave in my post was Motorhead. Because I think Motorhead is good party music. But if, now, yeah, maybe the guests at my party would complain that the music is annoying or that they don't like this music. And, you know, being a reasonable person, I would, of course, if somebody complained at my party, I'd be like, okay, well, we've had enough of this for the last hour, so we can change it to something else. That's fine. But I know that when I'm in the reciprocal situation, I almost never enjoy the music at friends' parties or at when other people are choosing music in the car, when we have to listen to the radio, that kind of thing, because the music that I like isn't played in those situations. And so I have just sort of resigned myself to accepting that people aren't going to play music I like, and I just deal with it. And so the whole idea behind this post is that, well, when I'm in control, maybe other people should have to deal with it too. I think that's a good summary of my point.
Yeah. Well, one interesting place I thought might be good to start is that your response to the top comment here really got a lot of heat. I mean, you got downvoted all to hell. And so I'm wondering, sort of, you know, you came here and, you know, made the step to have a genuine conversation. You want to come and, like, you know, you came to Change My View in the spirit of what we do here. And, you know, you've got someone making their point about the food and the analogy, and then bam, you've got your comment, which is not crazy, and it really got downvoted. Like, what are your feelings on what might have happened there? Veggie SAMN. How about why don't I read Veggie's real quick, and then you can sort of give us context in your response, okay? So I'll do it in a different voice just to someone else. So this is from Veggie SAMA, and 403 upvotes. This is the top response.
Pop music is designed to be inoffensive and catchy. Heavy metal is designed to be loud, aggressive, and dissonant. Being a good host is about making your guests feel comfortable, and in a mixed crowd, bland pop music is better at doing that than heavy metal. Consider another example. If you've been asked to make dinner for a group of white American friends you barely know, do you prepare 1. Hamburgers/veggie burgers, the safe option, or 2. Korean kimchi, a flavorful food that has a powerful odor if you're not accustomed? If you get the buy-in, then kimchi and heavy metal would make for a fantastic party. But as a host, you need to make compromises. It's not just politeness. People are more likely to trust you if they find you're flexible and caring. Maybe then they'd be willing to give your new music a chance. From the perspective of a music fan, did you get into heavy metal because it was forced on you, or did you explore on your own and discover what's great in a safe and trusting environment?
So that's the end of the top reply comment to yours, and then I leave it to you to read your reply and tell us a little more about that.
Okay. So I think, yeah, so my main point in responding to that was that the analogy of comparing hamburgers to pop music and kimchi to metal is not exactly appropriate, because pop music is a whole like genre, right? And metal is a I would argue an even larger genre. And so the changing the analogy in that way would be like, well, would you prepare American food or Korean food? And I think a reasonable person, if you're attending a dinner party and the host has made Korean food for everybody, as long as it's not, as long as they chose the Korean food in such a way that was that you could reasonably expect it to enjoy it, I think that's fine. And I think the person who posted that comment responded to me saying that, oh, if you did that where I live, then, or with the people that I know, no one would want to come to your party. But I mean, that's just saying that your friends are closed-minded, I guess.
Well, okay, so like I know enough about metal that like I have a friend who is really into it and has played some stuff. Like, you got to listen to this. We're out on a Friday and I don't know, having some beers, and it's awesome, and I'm super into that. And he's like playing me like some Dragon Force, or like we're watching Metalocalypse, and like it's amazing how they make a cartoon show, and they're actually amazing at playing these instruments. So I've got like this like lay person metal understanding, but I'm not ignorant of it, but I'm not like I guess I couldn't rise to the level of a fan, right? I've got no legitimacy in that community. I'm aware of it, and time to time I appreciate it. So I wonder if there's like a tier of people who think, hey, metal's cool. Let's see if, or maybe they like another specific genre of music that's not metal, but that could be jazz, or it could be, you name it, classical, and they just like the idea of someone who likes a niche like they do being anti-pop music. At the top level, boom, upvote, right? Then they get into the discussion, and perhaps there's just a large population of skimmers there that are upvoting the thing without actually getting into the discussion. And for some reason, this topic has a lot of skimmers. Like, I might be a skimmer in a sense because I'm kind of aware, but not super deep into it. That's my first instinct of guessing why, but it's hard to say, that leads me kind of a little bit of a segue to wonder about, what you were describing as, the broadness of metal, right? Like, you said something interesting to me, that you were saying metal is a bigger genre than pop. And to clarify, I think is what you meant, that there is a broader range of types of music within metal than there is in pop, and like pop, as popular as this, is actually pretty narrow as a genre.
Sure. Yeah, well, I guess that's not exactly true, because you can have different types of pop music. You can have like pop metal, pop hip hop, pop R&B. I was just thinking of like sort of top 40 pop when I said that, and that, if you're looking over a longer time frame, that can be quite diverse, I guess. But whatever the pop music is of today, I think they all try and fit this sort of formula, or this similar type of style that's very ephemeral, and it's very unique to whatever's happening right now. Whereas, I mean, in metal, there's some metal that you could argue that is, a lot of people would disagree that it's even heavy metal, because it's so different from what we think of when we see heavy metal. So I don't know why I'm assuming this comment is from a woman, so maybe it's not a woman. But what this person said, that heavy metal is designed to be loud, aggressive, and dissonant, that is definitely not true. The loud thing, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, all music is better when it's played loud. And you can change the volume of any kind of music, so volume has nothing to do with it. Being aggressive, absolutely. Lots of metal is very aggressive. Not all of it is. Some of it is very mellow. Some of it is deep and melodic. Some of it is slow. It doesn't have to be aggressive, although that is certainly a characteristic of a lot of metal genres. And dissonance, well, I don't know about that.
And just to clarify for our viewers, when you say dissonance, what do you mean?
Well, all right, I'm not a musician exactly, but dissonance is sort of like the opposite of harmony, I guess. So it's when sounds sort of conflict with each other rather than occurring at the same time and sounding like warm and fuzzy. It sounds kind of like uncomfortable and
deliberately
kind of
unpredictable, and aiming to, like any music, to create a certain emotional or some impact of a type. And
sure, yeah.
That perhaps one of metal's innovations might be its willingness to incorporate dissonance with the full art form, and not just be some weird experimental thing, but it actually works as a part of the thing. Is that kind of one of the special qualities, I guess, of metal?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I've never really thought about dissonance as being associated with metal in particular. Definitely, like something like distortion is heavily associated with heavy metal, like distortion on guitar, and like that kind of like fuzzy, dirty sound. I don't know if it's necessarily dissonance, though.
I think just to piggyback on your Metallica thing, if I could be at one concert anywhere at any time in history, there is a video of Metallica at I think it's called the Monsters of Metal or something at the Moscow airfield, like around the time the Berlin Wall was coming down. I can't remember the name of the Air Force Base, but it was like the major Air Force Base of Moscow, and there was estimates of 250 to a million plus people there, and you've got a whole generation of people who've only heard this by copies of cassettes passed secretly from their friends to hide from the Soviets. And now they get to show up to a Metallica concert and you watch these kids, 16 to 25-year-old crowd, hearing Metallica at full blast, clear, the first time free to listen to it. And it's this is incredible. And their music is melodically awesome. It is great stuff. But those people, it was good enough that they didn't need to be trained to like it even. It's not like they needed to to have to taste. They were just ready for it, So it's, I don't know. It's a powerful thing. I don't know if it's not an out there weird thing to me even. It almost seems like part of the constellation of popular stuff in a way, not to downgrade it,
Yeah, no, it absolutely. Metallica is a pretty mainstream band. They're not there. It doesn't really take much, I don't know. You don't really have to have a weird personality to enjoy Metallica. Their music is pretty straightforward. Some of it is pretty straightforward. And it's just sort of that whatever cultural aspects are associated with heavy metal make it kind of not mainstream, even though maybe musically it's not that far off from something that's more considered pop music.
And just for anyone viewing here, I went ahead and we would be remiss not to include the map of metal here if anyone hasn't seen it. And I was just curious to see in your looking at this map, what are your favorite types? Where do you fall? Or is this even too organized to appropriately ask the question?
Oh boy, this is cool.
Have you seen this?
I maybe briefly, but not in
okay.
detail. Yeah, I'm like a thrash metal kind of person. I also like stoner metal, which is let's see, stoner metal's kind of in the middle, a little bit to the bottom there.
It's not zooming in as much as I'd like, actually. Let me see if I can get it to go closer.
Folk metal is really weird.
Okay. Wait, where did I lose it? It was up and to the left. No.
Yeah, you have it there in sort of the top.
Oh, right. It's right in the middle, kind of. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's thrash metal up top. So thrash metal is is Metallica, like what you were talking about. Stoner metal is Black Sabbath is categorized as stoner metal these days. Folk metal is kind of you'll see the bands they dress up on stage with medieval kind of costumes, and they have fiddles and kind of old-timey type instruments, which is kind of strange to me. But yeah, so there's within this genre of music, there's music that I really don't like at all, music that I love. And so just to sort of blanket statement and say, oh, if I start playing metal music at a party, then I'm not going to have any friends anymore. No one's going to come to my parties anymore, which is what a lot of people said in response to my post. I think is really ridiculous. The person said, what did they say? Basically, they made the point that that if people come to my party and they're not enjoying my music to a much greater degree than I would not enjoy whatever other music is playing, then I'm basically putting them in a situation that I wouldn't want to be in myself. And that's absolutely true. And I admit that the fact that I'm intentionally submitting people to music that they don't like is it's a trivial situation, but I'm being immoral in doing that. It's trivial immorality, but yeah, it's immoral. And if the discomfort I'm putting them in is disproportionate to the discomfort that I would be in the analogous situation, then I shouldn't do that.
So kind of via the golden rule, dialing it back to the degree to which you'd be willing to do it yourself, regardless of the popularity of the genre. That the universal metric of the rule for fairness would be a little bit, but not too much, to the degree that it's like annoying or beyond some threshold of average distractingness or annoyingness for people who don't like it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that if this was a non-trivial situation, like where people were actually being hurt or damage is being caused, then regardless of if regardless of me saying, well, it would happen to me in the analogous scenario, so I don't care that you're being hurt or that you're being that something damage is occurring to you. That would be terrible. But because it's a trivial situation, I'm totally fine saying, well, I know I'm putting you through discomfort, but that discomfort is just get over it. Like I have to get over my discomfort in the same situation. So
in elevators, when you're on hold, all those situations,
yeah.
Or it's just a party with the popular music that you're not super into. Well, I do see a comment here. Is the one you're talking about, I think, was different than this one from user I think Stacia Rain is how I'd pronounce it. And there's a delta from you here as well. I thought I might read Stacia Rain's and then screen share the one I'm looking at here with it, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little about your reply as well.
Sure.
Cool. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that up on the screen share. And okay, so this says, Stacia Rain says, I just want to point out something here. The pop and pop music stands for popular. The whole idea is that it appeals to the widest number of people. Heavy metal is not so popular in terms of widespread appeal, yet there are a lot of fans. But in a room of 100 people, you might find that 70 like Despacito, and 4 who regularly listen to Guar. Step outside of yourself for a moment in this hypothetical party, assuming it's a quote-unquote average party and guests haven't been notified of any intention to play metal. To play average pop music will probably satisfy 70% of the people there. 25% won't care, and maybe 5% will be annoyed. If you switch to metal, 30% will enjoy, 40% won't care, and 30% will be annoyed. Obviously, these are made-up numbers, but I think you see what I mean. Would you rather play music that annoys more people? I think that being a good host, again, to an average party, and not one targeted at metal fans, involves recognizing what will make the most people comfortable despite your own preferences. And you awarded a delta for that. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's similar to what I was talking about before. I like the inclusion of math. Math always sort of makes me see things a little bit more clearly and allows me to articulate myself a little bit better. So yeah, the situation that she put forth, I think she said that basically everyone's being 6 times more annoyed, or there's 6 times more people being annoyed than if the situation was reversed. So I'll play my music 6 times less than the pop music. That's sort of the conclusion I came to as to what would be fair in that situation. But a lot of people, I think, who responded to me had this idea that, and this person also articulated it, which is you play whatever music the most people will enjoy, which means that in 100% of situations, you're catering to the 95%, which means that the 5% is ignored 100% of the time. And sort of the logic underneath my my original post is that, well, if I'm hosting the party, now it's time for the 5%, and everyone can sit through it, just like the other 5% have to sit through it when the 95% are hosting their parties. Well, I think that maybe the reason why the music shifted is because when you're in university is more when you're trying to get laid, basically, and it's easier to get laid when there's music that people dance to, and so that's what pop music, I think, is for a lot of people.
I think there's something to the pop music where there's something about it that it is popular. Like you can only promote. Yes, you can do a lot with promotion and paying for more radio time and stuff. But if the song isn't likable, it just won't stick. And I mean, I don't know. One of my favorite guilty pleasures is like, you know, sometimes I just want to go and listen to the top 10 on YouTube all time videos, and you know, they could be about, you know, how to tie your shoes or you know, how to build a bridge, but 19 out of 20 I think are all music videos. So well, why is that? You know, is this a reflection of who, you know, what is YouTube made out of? It's made out of people, right? So and listening to the top 10, watching those videos, by the way, I don't know, I think they're great. I think the songs are so catchy. I get them right away. It takes very little work for me to dive in and enjoy them. It's almost lazy how easy it is to just enjoy like those top Taylor Swift or Katy Perry videos or songs. They're just like, they're so happy and up and just like, it's easy. It's super easy. I'm also in no way a sophisticated musician or anything. Like I don't play an instrument. You know, so, but maybe I don't know. I'm a sucker for pop, I think. And when you say, are people genuinely enjoying it? I got to say, in those contexts, those popular bar or party songs or whatever, yeah, I'm in there enjoying it, and I feel like yeah, because it's good. It's like rooting for the Patriots. Well, yeah, because they're good. You know? And then, but that's just one. Of course, music always subjective, but at least for me, that I don't know. I'm a very lay person who enjoys the white bread of the regular boring thing, I guess. But
no, it's not even about being boring. I mean, I think it's designed specifically so that people will like it. Just the problem, one of the big problems for me is that it's just played so much that it gets so irritating. Even when it's a song that you should like. Like there's a lot of the top songs, I listen to it the first or second time, and I think, oh, this is pretty good. And then a week later, I hate it because it's never ending.
Because you're hearing it everywhere.
Yeah, and they do you use the same sort of like little motifs and little I don't know elements to the songs, and that aspect of it gets repetitive too.
Yeah. Well, sometimes the best arguments aren't in words either. I think for our audience, maybe it's worth asking Dominic if there's 2 or 3 metal songs that perhaps our audience are worth checking out to share some of the finest of that genre that might not otherwise be out there or known about.
Oh boy. I mean, I don't know. If anyone who likes pop music or electronic music, Rob Zombie is like super accessible. It's a little aggressive, and the lyrics are weird and all, you know, horror themed and stuff like that. And they're lyrics are all basically meaningless. But that's pretty accessible, I think, for people who like electronic pop music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Metallica is the most popular metal band, I believe. Mm-hmm. All time, and so they're pretty accessible for a lot of people. What else? Oh boy, I mentioned the album. I think I mentioned it in maybe a comment or maybe the original post. Is the album Heritage by Opeth. Sure. Opeth is sort of I think they're death metal or maybe black metal band, but the album Heritage is more closer to, I would say, it's very progressive. It's maybe a little experimental. It's almost closer to jazz and folk than it is to other metal. Like there's no screaming. It's not particularly aggressive, and it's in terms of like musicality, it's incredibly unique and incredible. I really would at least encourage people to try out at least the first song of that album.
All right, Heritage by Opeth and Rob Zombie generally. So cool. I'll add those to the show notes, and maybe a couple of relevant links for those. So
I will feel a little bit better about sacrificing my own musical tastes for their benefit after realizing how overwhelmingly unpopular my opinion was. But I will feel also a little bit better about playing my music for maybe a short period of time during that party. So improved on both ends, I think.
Yeah, that seems like the reasonable compromise too. Like have a half hour where you're just raging on that metal, because you know you go to Dominic's house, you're gonna hear a little bit of metal. It's not crazy, but it'll be a little bit. You know, it's part of the flavor. People too, even if it's something they're not into, appreciate stuff more if they're around someone who's super into it. Like if I'm with someone who likes Rubik's cubes and they're like really excited about showing me these 5-second solvers with one hand. Like suddenly I'm into it more. So like I think if you're at someone's place and they have some genre they like to get into, like to me, like I think that's great because it puts me into a world I wouldn't think to otherwise go into. And I think there's a lot of people out there that that catches fire too. That it's like the Andrew Carnegie thing of just I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something to do with just showing that you're into something and being passionate about it, and it's attractive to people. Totally. All right, cool. Well, before we sign off with you, then Dominic, was there anything else you wanted to discuss, or anything else that just about this post, about the view changing? Anything else?
I don't think so. I think we covered a large portion of it.
Right on. Well, we really do appreciate you taking the time to come on and in these early phases here with the podcast and taking a risk to just go live here and see what happens, talking about your view.
Yeah, thanks.
And one final note, there was a segment after Dominic's heavy metal segment, which you've just heard, that we talked about the big Wired magazine article that came out featuring Change My View and with some focus on Cal. And we're going to get into that at a later date because that one's just me and Cal talking, and we decided just to remove it here and keep it focused simply on the music here today. So thank you again for tuning in and listening, and we'll just keep trying to make this better for next time. All right, see you then. Thanks for listening. Good night.